Samson and Delilah, the end of the Samson story. There's all the feats, there's all the mighty man actions, but the Samson and Delilah part gets, I think, the most attention and also has maybe the most misunderstood about it or the most read onto it. She has become such a big name, removed from the narrative as well, much like Jezebel, where this is a name people know regardless of whether they know the story or not, regardless of their connection to the text. Her name has become a thing outside of this.
It's equated with, negativity. She's, without even reading the text, people know the name, just like they know the name Jezebel, and they equate it with certain, negative stereotypes of women. So first of all, she's often assumed to be a Philistine.
Yes.
Right? So she's living in an area that's if I remember correctly, kind of a close to the Philistine land. It's kind of a liminal zone between Israel and the Philistines. And that her name is not, her name seems to be Israelite. I mean, some people have thought that it's a pun on Samson's name because the root from Samson's name means sun, like sun in the sky type of sun. And that Delilah comes from the root, which is night. But others disagree with that and say that her name comes from the Hebrew word, which means like locks, like flowing locks of hair. And so again, you still have that kind of pun involved with, as a lot of names often do within the Hebrew Bible text. But the thing too that's really interesting about him is that you get this irony of his strength, right? He's supposed to be the strong man, but he's actually so physically strong, right? But he's actually quite weak. Yeah. And especially when it comes to women. Right? We've got all these episodes involving him, and people focus on his interaction with the Philistines, but he's really, he's not strong of character and is strong of trying to, when it comes especially to women. And we see this relationship between him and Delilah, which there are indications that, this is a sexual romantic relationship.
That, again, seemingly despite his past, isn't read to him, but just read to her.
Right. And traditionally, when people have read the sexual part into the text, it's only looked at negatively as upon her. And sometimes people have inferred that she was a prostitute. And it's like, no, the text doesn't say anything about her being a prostitute. He has seen a prostitute. That was the woman before her. But it doesn't say anything about that. And so usually when people are comfortable with a sexual reading, it's a negative one placed upon the woman and that the man is just, an innocent character or innocent, party of this. Whereas, no, that's not the case. And especially in this narrative, I definitely don't think it's the case.
I do think it is important to highlight, you mentioned both of those. One, that Delilah is often assumed to be a Philistine, even though the text doesn't necessarily say that. And that she's often assumed to be a prostitute, even though the text doesn't say that, of how we're positioning her outside of what it actually says to support a reading that we may want to have in this. I think that's a very helpful point to keep those things in mind of what's getting read in rather than read out of some of these stories.
And we have to demonize her because the character who is supposed to be the protagonist is Samson. So most people, whether they know it or not, have read those texts and automatically go, oh, he's the good guy, therefore she's the bad person.